I, 28F, was supposed to get married to Gary, 30M, next week, but everything changed after a weird conversation with my Mill Linda, 55F. I feel completely lost right now and need some advice about my current situation. Gary and I met through mutual friends at a birthday party 2 years ago. We were very different people. He was quiet and introverted while I was outgoing and social, but somehow we clicked instantly. Gary was this really sweet high school teacher who loved his students, and I worked in marketing. Despite the fact that we met at a party, Gary was actually quite shy and kept to himself most of the time. I found that really endearing because unlike other guys who tried too hard to impress me, he was just being himself. After dating for 6 months, things started getting serious between us. We spent a lot of time together and started talking about moving in together. That's when Gary's mom Linda suggested we should move in with them to save money for our future. Gary was completely on board with the idea because he had always lived with his parents and saw nothing wrong with it. I was hesitant at first because I valued my independence, but the financial aspect made sense. Gary's parents lived in this huge 5-bedroom house, and Linda insisted it would be better for us financially. So I gave up my apartment and moved in with them. Linda seemed really nice in the beginning. She was always cooking our favorite meals and including me in family activities. She was a stay-at-home mom who took pride in taking care of her family. Her husband Tom worked in construction, but he was rarely around, and when he was, he barely spoke. Linda ran the household and made all the decisions. The first few months of living there were actually pretty good. Linda took care of everything: cooking, cleaning, laundry. She wouldn't even let me help, saying I worked hard at my job and should rest when I got home. Gary and I contributed some money for groceries and utilities, but it wasn't much compared to what I used to spend on my apartment. Living together helped Gary and I grow closer. We started talking about marriage and our future plans. Gary proposed on my birthday last year with his grandmother's ring. Linda seemed really happy about the engagement and immediately started planning the wedding. She had all these ideas and I just went along with them because she seemed so excited. We set the wedding date for next week and everything was going according to plan until last Thursday when Linda asked me to meet her alone for coffee. She said she wanted to discuss something important about the wedding. I thought maybe she wanted to talk about last-minute arrangements or some family tradition I needed to know about. We met at this cafe near my office during my lunch break. After some small talk about wedding preparations, she suddenly brought up this weird demand. She said that after marriage, I would need to transfer half of my monthly salary to her account. I was completely shocked and confused. When I asked her why, she said it was for mine and Gary's security and future. She mentioned that she had already discussed this with Gary and he had agreed. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had been living with them for more than a year, planning this wedding for months, and she chose to bring this up just a week before? I told her I needed time to think about it and left the cafe. My mind was racing with questions. Why hadn't Gary mentioned this before? Why did she want my money when we were already contributing to household expenses? When I got home that evening, I confronted Gary about it. He got really nervous and finally admitted that his mom had talked to him about this a month ago. She had told him that if we didn't agree to her terms, we couldn't live in her house after marriage. Gary said he couldn't tell me because he was scared we would have to move out and we couldn't afford our own place yet with all the wedding expenses. I was hurt that Gary had kept this from me for a month. We had always been honest with each other about everything. Even when we had disagreements, we would talk them out. This felt like a complete betrayal of trust. Gary kept saying his mom only wanted what was best for us, but I couldn't understand how taking half my salary was good for us. The whole situation has been giving me anxiety because there's something else only Gary and I know. I'm 2 months pregnant. It wasn't planned, but we were happy about it. We had discussed that I would quit my job temporarily after the baby was born to take care of our child. Gary had been supportive of this decision and we had started planning our finances accordingly. But clearly, he hadn't told his mom about any of this. My parents live in a different state and I haven't told them about Linda's demand yet. They'd already spent so much money on this wedding, I don't want to worry them. My best friend thinks I should talk to Linda again and try to understand her perspective better. But honestly, I'm scared to face her alone again. The wedding is in 7 days and I feel completely lost. Gary keeps saying I'm overreacting and should just agree to Linda's terms for now. He says we can figure something out later, but I feel like this is just the beginning. If she's making such demands before marriage, what else will she demand after? And the fact that Gary hid this from me for a month makes me question everything. I need advice. Am I overreacting to this situation? Should I just agree to her terms since we need a place to live? Or should I stand my ground and risk ruining this relationship? Ida for not wanting to give half of my salary to my mill? Update 1: After reading all your comments, I decided to talk to Linda again and tell her about the pregnancy. Several people suggested that maybe knowing about her future grandchild would soften her stance on the whole salary situation. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was to think that. I wanted Gary to be present during this conversation because I didn't feel comfortable facing Linda alone again. When I told him this morning about my plan to tell Linda about the pregnancy, he made some excuse about having extra classes at school that he needed to stay back for. I found it weird because it's spring break, but I didn't push it. So I ended up meeting Linda alone in her kitchen yesterday evening after she finished making dinner. Tom was watching TV in the living room as usual, completely oblivious to everything happening in the house. I was nervous but decided to just get it over with. I started by telling her that I needed to share some important news. I was 2 months pregnant with her grandchild. I expected at least a hint of joy or excitement, but her reaction was completely opposite. Her face turned red with anger and she started yelling so loud that I'm sure the neighbors could hear her. She called me manipulative and accused me of trapping her son with this pregnancy. She said I had planned this whole thing to ruin their family's reputation. I was shocked because Gary and I had been together for 2 years, living in their house, and were about to get married in less than a week. How was this pregnancy trapping anyone? When I mentioned my plan to quit my job after the baby was born, she completely lost it. She started pacing around the kitchen, saying there was no way she would let me quit because they needed my salary for household expenses. I reminded her that I had never agreed to give her my salary in the first place, and that's when she dropped a bomb. She told me that Gary had already promised her my salary months ago, even before he proposed. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. All this time Gary knew about her plans and had been playing along? Linda wasn't done though. She went on about how I had messed up everything with this unplanned pregnancy. She said the only reason she was letting us get married was because I earned good money, and now that I planned to quit my job, she didn't see any point in the wedding happening. I called Gary immediately but he didn't pick up. I called several times but it went straight to voicemail. I waited for him to come home and when he finally did around 9 p.m., Linda told him everything. I expected him to stand up for me and our baby, but instead, he sided with his mom. He said I should have been more careful about birth control and now I was creating unnecessary drama by wanting to quit my job. I couldn't believe this was the same Gary who had been excited about the baby just days ago. The same person who had helped me deal with morning sickness and had even started looking at baby names online. It was like his mother's presence turned him into a completely different person. I spent the whole night crying in our room while Gary slept on the couch. Even then he didn't come to check on me once. This morning when I tried talking to him again before he left for school, he said I should either agree to his mom's terms or postpone the wedding until we figure something out. He didn't even acknowledge how disrespectfully his mother had treated me or the fact that she had basically threatened to stop our wedding because of our baby. The more I think about it, the more I realize that Gary has never really stood up to his mother about anything. When she criticized my clothes, he told me to dress more conservatively. When she rearranged our room without asking, he said she was just trying to help. When she changed our wedding plans without consulting me, he said I should be grateful she was doing all the work. He always found excuses for her behavior or told me to adjust. I couldn't take it anymore so I called my mom and told her everything. She was furious and said she would book me a flight home immediately. She wanted to come here herself and confront Linda but I begged her not to make things worse. She asked me to pack some clothes and come stay with her for a few days to clear my head. I'm typing this from my mom's house. Gary has been calling and texting constantly saying I'm being dramatic and hormonal because of the pregnancy. He says I'm embarrassing him by leaving like this, and that I should come back home and apologize to his mom for upsetting her. My mom thinks I should seriously reconsider this marriage. She says if Linda is making such demands before marriage and Gary can't stand up to her now, it will only get worse after marriage. She's worried about how they'll treat me and the baby. The wedding is in 5 days and right now I'm not sure if it should happen at all. I keep thinking about how quickly Gary changed when it came to choosing between his mom and me. What will happen after marriage when she makes more demands? Will my child grow up watching their father always choose grandmother over mom? Update 2: I called off the wedding. After spending 2 days at my mom's place thinking about everything, I finally gathered the courage to make this difficult decision. The night after my last update, Gary showed up at my mom's house unannounced. My mom wasn't home, she had gone to get groceries. Initially, I thought he had come to apologize or at least try to understand my side of things. Instead, he started lecturing me about how I was embarrassing him and his family by staying at my mom's place. He said relatives had started calling asking why I wasn't at home, and he didn't know what to tell them. I was already feeling sick from morning sickness, and his attitude just made everything worse. I told him straight up that I was not getting married unless he stood up to his mother and supported my decision about the baby. His response showed me his true colors. He said if I really cared about our baby, I would keep working and give his mom what she wanted because we needed a place to live. When I suggested we could rent a small apartment instead, he said he wasn't going to leave his parents' house just because I was being difficult. That's when it hit me, Gary was never going to change. He would always be his mother's puppet. I took off my engagement ring and gave it back to him. He got angry, saying I was being selfish and thinking only about myself. The irony of his statement wasn't lost on me. I asked him how he could let his mother disrespect the mother of his child like this. He had no answer but kept insisting I was overreacting. The next morning, with shaking hands, I started calling all our guests to cancel everything. It was humiliating having to explain to everyone why the wedding was off just 3 days before the date. Some people were understanding, others were judgmental. My parents were completely supportive and helped me deal with all the cancellations and vendors. That's when the real drama started. Gary's family, led by Linda, started spreading rumors in our social circle. They told everyone I had cheated on Gary and that's why I called off the wedding. They said I was lying about the pregnancy to trap Gary. Some mutual friends who had known us for years actually believed them and stopped talking to me. Linda started sending me nasty messages. She said I had ruined her son's life and that she would make sure I regretted this decision. She threatened to tell my company about my unstable behavior. I blocked her number, but she kept creating new social media accounts to harass me. I ended up blocking their entire family. Gary kept trying to contact me through different numbers. Sometimes he would be angry, calling me selfish. Other times he would plead, saying we could work things out. But not once did he stand up to his mother or apologize for hiding things from me. My mom helped me move all my stuff out of their house when Gary and Linda were at some family function. Tom was there, but as usual, he just watched silently as we packed everything. He did help carry some boxes to the car though, which was probably the most involvement he had ever shown in any family matter. I'm back at my mom's place now and honestly, for the first time in weeks, I feel like I can breathe. Yes, I'm pregnant and single, and some people are judging me for it. But I would rather be a single mom than be stuck in a marriage where my husband and his mother control every aspect of my life. My company has been surprisingly understanding about my situation. When I explained everything to my manager, she arranged for me to work from home since my morning sickness has been pretty bad. At least I don't have to face my coworkers and their questions yet. The only thing that hurts is that I wasted 2 years with someone who couldn't choose between his mother and his unborn child. But I know this decision, though difficult, was the right one. My baby deserves better than a father who can't stand up for them and a grandmother who sees them as an inconvenience. Update 3: Life has changed completely since my last update. I gave birth to my beautiful baby girl Emma last month. The pregnancy was difficult both emotionally and physically. I had severe morning sickness throughout and high blood pressure in the last trimester. My mom was amazing. She took a 3-month break from her job to help me through the final months of pregnancy and the first few weeks after delivery. Gary found out about Emma's birth through some mutual friends. He showed up at the hospital with Linda the day after I delivered. I had specifically mentioned in my admission forms that only my family was allowed to visit. When the nurses stopped them, Linda created a huge scene in the hospital lobby. She was screaming about her rights as a grandmother and how I was keeping her son from his child. The hospital security had to escort them out. My doctor was concerned about my blood pressure after this incident and kept me under observation for an extra day. A week after we got home from the hospital, Gary's lawyer contacted me about custody arrangements. I wasn't surprised. Linda had been posting on Facebook about taking legal action. I got my own lawyer and we're currently sorting out the custody details. Gary is demanding 50-50 custody, but my lawyer says that's unlikely since he never provided any support during pregnancy. We have documentation of Linda's harassment at the hospital and all her threatening messages, which works in my favor. Something unexpected happened 2 months ago. Tom, Gary's quiet dad, came to see me privately. He looked nervous and said he had been wanting to talk to me for months. He apologized for not speaking up earlier and told me something shocking. Linda had done similar things to Gary's previous girlfriend Sarah 5 years ago. She had demanded part of Sarah's inheritance money, but Sarah left Gary before the engagement. Tom said he had wanted to warn me, but Linda had threatened to leave him if he interfered in family matters. I started my new job last week. It's actually a better position than my previous one with a 30% higher salary. The company offers great maternity benefits and flexible hours, which helps a lot with managing Emma. My mom has been wonderful with the baby while I'm at work. She says it gives her something to look forward to every day. Linda still hasn't given up. She creates fake social media accounts to contact me and post nasty comments about me. She even tried to contact my new company, but luckily my manager was understanding about the situation. Some of our mutual friends who had initially believed their lies reached out to apologize after hearing Tom's side of the story. But I'm keeping my distance from anyone connected to that family. Gary sends gifts for Emma, but I return them all. Last week he sent a huge teddy bear with a note saying he misses us. I sent it back with a note asking him to communicate through our lawyers only. I'm not going to let him or his mother manipulate their way back into our lives with gifts and sweet messages. Emma deserves better than a grandmother who sees her as a problem and a father who couldn't stand up for her before she was even born. I don't think I'll be updating again unless something major happens with the custody case. Looking back, I'm so glad I trusted my instincts and didn't go through with the wedding. Sometimes ending a relationship just before marriage is better than ending up in a controlling marriage where you lose your freedom and self-respect. Emma is waking up from her nap now. Thank you everyone for helping me see things clearly when I was confused 6 months ago. Life isn't perfect, but we're happy and that's what matters most.